All right, let's shift our focus to this story now. Former President Thabo Mbeki has written a scathing letter to Deputy President Mashatile. He expresses his disdain at the ANC and government's behaviour regarding Phala Phala and other matters. He says they have caused people to completely lose trust in the governing party. Political analyst Sandile Swana joins us now to dissect that particular letter. Mr. Swana, good morning and thank you very much for your time. You know, if it were not for the letterhead, I could have sworn the letter was from opposition. The former president was extremely scathing, even suggesting that the current crop of leaders might need to make use of their political school to be reminded of the founding principles of the African National Congress. What did you make of that letter?
Yes, thank you so much, Mfundo. The letter itself is long, 17 pages, which means that also it is relatively thorough and justifies its case in explaining the problems. Number one, as you correctly point out, the letter deals with two instances where it becomes clear that the ANC leaders, including Paul Mashatile, the deputy president, and Phemi Majodina, have not been put through the political school of the ANC and would benefit from going there in order to understand that the people shall govern. Meaning that the power that the people who voted for the ANC conferred on the ANC, it is not power for them as leaders of the ANC and as office bearers to protect themselves from accountability and from the principles and practices of good governance. So definitely he is saying that the ANC at this present point in time is in fact involved in a counter-revolutionary program that seeks to displace the Freedom Charter in the programs of South Africa as a whole.
When you speak of counter-revolutionaries, he spoke extensively on that, particularly saying that here, particularly with that response by the deputy president that majority rules, he was in essence playing into the hands of counter-revolutionaries who in fact want to see parliamentary supremacy, where we return to that, where right now we have the constitution, which is supreme.
Yes, there was a decision in the formative stage from around 1990 on the part of the ANC in communicating with the apartheid regime and its supporters that the new incoming government that is foresawn, there was no guarantee that it would be an ANC government. But whatever government would be elected would then be dictated to by the constitution, and everything else that is done must be within the ambit of the constitution. And those people feared that the majority, which was the black majority, which had no votes before, number one, would overwhelm them. Number two, that if the ANC would win elections, then the thing that says the people shall govern would mean that perpetually the ANC would govern and bully and railroad everybody else. What the EFF lately has called majoritarianism, where because you are many and more than other people in parliament, you don't listen to logic, you don't listen to reason, you simply bulldoze, regardless of what the constitution says. You make decisions even if they are contrary to the constitution.
What did you make, though, of that response itself at his maiden Q&A, when Siviwe actually posed the question that it seems that at every point the ANC has stopped them from holding the president accountable or the executive just in general? What did you make of that response? Because the media already had singled out that specific response. It was everywhere. There was a headline that majority rules. If the ANC has won elections, it gets to push whatever view it feels is correct.
That view was very important because our objection to the National Party government, the apartheid government, and other undesirable governments before 1948 was exactly that people could set up any scheme that favors their clique, favors their cabal, or favors their faction, such as the National Party, and railroad everybody. And the revolution, which is the National Democratic Revolution, which Thabo Mbeki refers to in his document, in his letter, says, no, it is not enough that you win a majority in an election. You must remain within the ambit and the spirit of the letter and the spirit of the constitution in everything that you do. And you must be open to examination and be found innocent after examination. And indeed, during the Jacob Zuma era, the ANC protected Jacob Zuma at all costs, when it was clear, in fact, that there were mistakes of governance, there were illegalities, and there was corruption. But Gwede Mandase, Kgalema Motlanthe, and many others continued to protect Jacob Zuma at all costs. And that trend is continuing, a trend that started with the Polokwane conference that said protect a comrade, protect a president, and protect corruption at all costs.
There seems to be this notion now, or the insertion of the fact that the former president himself is not necessarily one with a very squeaky clean legacy. What do you make of just that conduct, that when somebody calls out individuals for what he considers wayward behavior, that it would constantly be an issue now where you want to dissect the speaker, that who is addressing us? Is it really helpful to want to then go into someone's legacy when they decide to call you out on a particular matter?
Yeah, first of all, I think a lot of the comrades who have commented on this issue have not even read the 17-page letter that Thabo Mbeki has said and what it actually says, and more specifically that at this stage, they are counter-revolutionaries themselves, that the ANC in its current conduct and its membership is counter-revolutionary. And in fact, coincidentally, the issue of counter-revolutionaries in the ANC was also attested to by the then head of intelligence at some point. So that is a problem whereby now, for instance, Mashatile once said that everybody in the ANC has got smaller nyana skeletons. When she says everybody in the ANC has got smaller nyana skeletons, she includes herself. Any serious police officer and any serious court is always interested to hear from a member of the mafia. Any criminal who speaks for himself or for other criminals about criminality is usually taken seriously because he's got inside information. So the mistakes of the ANC are known firsthand by Thabo Mbeki because he also made some of them himself.
Now, in that thoroughness that you keep speaking of, he went on to even quote the current president, President Cyril Ramaphosa's own statement to the party when he says they are in fact accused number one, when he goes and pleads with ANC members to say we need to be sensitive to the issues now and concede that a lot has gone wrong. And I'm paraphrasing. And he goes on to say that we might not be alone in the dock, but most certainly the African National Congress is accused number one. He reminds him of those very words, and he goes on to say perhaps this is the climate now that continues.
It is the climate that continues. And what was needed, I think we need to be clear about what was needed as well. Had they been serious about that admission in public that they are the accused number one as an organization, not just individuals, as a collective, the whole lot of them, they should have then said, Cyril Ramaphosa, there are these allegations. The former Chief Justice Sandile Swana and his committee have said you have a case to answer. We now, as the ANC, were asking and directing you to go to that impeachment committee and answer those questions truthfully. And we, in turn, will vote in favor of the impeachment committee actually continuing. And similarly to the ESCOM and other issues. But no, they decide that it is better because they are worried that he might not come out clean in that committee. He might not be able to survive the committee. So they then block the committee altogether because overwhelming evidence, perhaps in their view, is against the president that is in fact implicated.
But now the ANC has actually requested that the former president perhaps come and address them physically, and they hear some of the issues that he's raised in that letter. What could possibly be the response now if he poses the same question, that why squash an inquiry if, of course, as the ANC, you believe that the president has not committed an impeachable offense? What could be the response? Because some are saying it could be that there was a case. He had taken the matter, he was challenging the matter in court, so they were purely focused on that they must allow that process to actually conclude before they make a decision.
Remember that ahead of time, the judges have made a judgment on this issue to say Parliament must exercise oversight on the executive, regardless of who is actually doing any other investigation. And unfortunately for them, the court then advised the president that he is not, they don't need to be involved in this matter. He needs to go and address it in parliament. The IFP, I think it was, and I certainly did make this recommendation, that if he has certain queries about the process of the commission, of the committee that was the panel that had been doing the preliminary investigation, he can raise his concern in the inquiry itself. It's allowed, and they can correct errors that they've made during the hearing. So it was a waste of time to say SARS is still investigating, public protector is still investigating, because the court had already pronounced themselves that Parliament must never be hindered by any other investigation from exercising its duties of oversight over the executive. But the question we are asking is, what will Gwede Mantashe and company say to Mbeki? The answer they will give him is political, and it will not be for the benefit of the public, which is to say for their own political convenience, and perhaps until they go through the 2024 elections, they want Cyril to be there, and they do not want to risk any process that can cause him to be removed or recalled before the election of 2024.